everyone, it's Abigail from Knits and Knots by Amy, and today I'm going to walk you through the color work and stitch work used in this Johnston Wrap, which is an oversized scarf. Alright, so this is the Johnston Wrap. It is essentially made up of basic stitches in different color work and stitch work patterns. So I'm actually going to show you how I work up a little swatch of this wrap up until the midpoint, because after this midpoint it's just a repeat until the very end. For this tutorial I just grabbed some nice and bright extra yarn that I have. This is not Heartland, so this is not what I use in the pattern, but it's the same weight, and I'm going to be using the same crochet hook that the pattern calls for. Okay, let's get into it. So I'm going to do 21 plus 2, 23 stitches. So chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 21, 22, and 23. So that's our beginning chain for the stitches. And to begin row 1, I'm going to just chain 2. The pattern will call for 246 stitches plus 2. Right now I'm doing 23 stitches plus 2, and then the first row is a row of double crochets. I'm going to yarn over and do a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then do a double crochet in each chain down the row. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 21, 22, and 23. Okay, so that's our first row. For the second row, it's another row of double crochets, so I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and then, so that's already our first double crochet. I'm going to go into the next stitch and make another double crochet and double crochet in each stitch down the row, and I'll meet you guys there. Okay, so here's the end of our row 2. So we have double crochet rows, so this is our end of the second row. So we have 2 rows of double crochet. We're going to move on to our third row. Now before we start that, I want to note that my swatch is an odd number of stitches. The pattern calls for 246 stitches, which is an even number, so our endings might look different. This row, we are alternating colors every stitch. So if I'm going to start, this is going to be blue, white, blue, white. I'm essentially going to end with a blue. For the pattern, it's going to be green, yellow, green, yellow. You're going to be ending with a yellow, so that's why in the pattern it says finish off the last stitch with pulling through the main color. In my swatch, I won't be needing to do that because I'm ending with the main color. So let's get to it. Remember, in this swatch, or in this pattern, the first chain of the row, chain stitch or chain stitches, is considered a stitch. So we're going to chain 1, and that's our first half double crochet. We're going to yarn over. Just going to set up this yarn over with the second contrasting color, pull through. I'm going to turn my work, tug on that a little bit, and then do a half double crochet in the next stitch, pulling through with the main color yarn. So now we have our first stitch and our second stitch. After that, I'm just going to turn this around and secure this contrasting yarn with a little knot. There we go. And now we are ready to continue. I'm going to work this whole row with you guys. Half double crochet in the blue, pulling through to end the stitch with the white. And this is how we make seamless color changes. I really like the effect of alternating colors, but it's just a lot of work. I forgot to mention, for a clean look, you should be crocheting over the yarn that you're carrying. I know I've been doing it for the last couple stitches, but as you can see here, I didn't, so just never mind that. Okay, I'm nearing the end, so there. And pulling through with my main color, like I mentioned earlier, my last stitch is actually going to be in my main color, going into the top of that chain 2 in the previous row, and I'm going to complete that stitch. There we go. So we have row 3, which is an alternating row of half double crochets, alternating color row. So rows 4 and 5 are going to be double crochet rows in the main color. I'm going to snip off this and secure it, and then I'll work those 2 rows. Okay, so I'm almost done with row 5. If I look down on row 6, it says that we're starting with our contrasting color. So I'm just going to finish up this last double crochet stitch by pulling through with my contrasting color. And there we go. Now I'm going to secure that contrasting color with 2 knots, just like that. For row 6, I'm going to chain 2, and this is going to be a half double crochet row in the contrasting color. If I go down to row 7, I see that we're going back to our main color. So for row 6, I'm just going to crochet over our main color. So chain 2, that's our half double crochet in that next stitch, and I'm crocheting over the main color. And so here's our last stitch over here. Going to begin our half double crochet stitch, and then yarn over and pull through with our main color. There we go. Row 7 is done in our main color, and I can see going down that our secondary, or that row 8 is done in our contrasting color. So I'm again going to be crocheting over this contrasting color yarn in this next row. Okay, so I'm going to chain 1, and then that will count as our single crochet. Go into the next stitch, set up our yarn to crochet over it. Give it a little tug there. Okay, and then I'm going to crochet in a single crochet over our contrasting yarn in each stitch down the row. Okay, so here I am. I've reached the last stitch. I'm going to insert my hook, start that single crochet, and finish it off with the contrasting color. Here we go. Now we are ready to start our actual crisscrosses, which would be a chain 2, and then I'll just set up my yarn. We're going to skip this next stitch, and we're going to double crochet in the stitch after, and then double crochet back into that skipped stitch. It's going to lift this secondary or this main color yarn, get to that stitch so it nicely tucks that yarn in. And this is the wrong side of the pattern or the garment, so that's all right if you could see it a little bit. Okay, so going again, I'm going to skip one stitch, double crochet into the next, go back and double crochet into that skipped stitch, skip one stitch, double crochet into the next, and then double crochet back into that skipped stitch. So you can see here we are making little crisscrosses, and we're going to keep on doing that until we reach the very end. So here I've done 21 stitches, and we have 22 and 23. I'm going to do a double crochet in each of those stitches. And that it does not say that in the pattern, but because again I'm working with an odd number of stitches for this swatch, that is what's going to happen. In the pattern, because you are working with even stitches, it's going to be nice and even. So imagine there's an extra stitch over here, or actually imagine there's only 22 stitches. So it's going to start with your double crochet chain, like the chain 2 that creates that double crochet, and then it's going to end with a double crochet. In the that's how it's going to be in the pattern. In my swatch, it's just going to be like that. However, in the herringbone section, you're going to see that my section, because I'm working with an odd number of stitches based on a multiple of 3 plus 2 more, it's going to, my herringbone section is going to add up really nicely. But in the pattern, because it's an even number, you are actually going to have and it directs you in the pattern, you're actually going to have an ending or beginning with 2 stitches just like this. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Now for row 9 to 12, we're going to repeat row 7 and 8 respectively. So I'm actually going to take out this last yarn over. I'm going to do that again and yarn over and pull through with my contrasting color. Row 7 is that single crochet, so I'm going to chain 1 and single crochet over my contrasting color, give that a little pull. Last stitch, I'm going to begin my single crochet and pull through using my contrasting yarn. To repeat that 2 more times, so another crisscross, blue, crisscross, blue, and then I will make a row of half double crochets, and that's going to complete our X section. Okay, so I'm nearing the end of row 14, so 22, and then my last half double crochet. I see that row 15 and 16 use the main color, so I'm going to finish off that half double crochet with the main color. Since we're going to be working 2 rows of the main color, I'm going to snip off that contrasting color and secure it. So it's nice and secure. I'm going to go ahead and work 2 rows of double crochet and then see you guys there. Okay, I'm nearing the end of row 16. Looking down, I can see that the next row uses the contrasting color. So I'm going to finish up this last stitch by pulling through with the contrasting color. Okay, and as usual, tying that here. Okay, going down to row 18, I see that it's the main color again, so I'm just going to be crocheting over the main color for this next row. Row 17, I'm going to chain 1 and do a single crochet all the way down the row. Again, I'm going to be crocheting over my contrasting or my main color yarn. So that single crochet is our first stitch, 2, 3, 4, 22, and finishing off the last stitch by pulling through with the main color. Let's see, row 19 to 28 is actually going to be in our main color, so I'm going to snip off this contrasting color and secure it. Alright, so going back to row 19, I'm going to chain, row 18, I'm going to chain 1, another row of single crochet in our main color. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 23. Okay, so that's row 19. I'm going to be starting those arrow stitches where we raise and cross over some of the stitches. So in order to do that, row 19, we're going to chain 2. What I mentioned earlier, where because I'm using, for this swatch, I'm using an odd number of stitches. That means that this section here had those extra 2. And in the pattern, it would be perfectly balanced for the cross section. Now for this section over here, I'm actually going to be perfectly balanced. In the pattern, it would say chain 2 and then DC in the next stitch. So that's going to be like your extra stitch as I had over here. But because I'm using an odd number for this swatch, I'm not going to do that extra DC. So I'm going to just skip that DC right there. Now I'm going to go into that asterisk area. I'm going to skip 1 stitch, double crochet, double crochet, and then do a double crochet into that skipped stitch, passing over the front of those 2 stitches. Okay, so I'm just going to go in like that. Oops. There we go. And so it should look like that, a little raised. Okay, now I'm going to repeat from there until the very end. Skip, double crochet, double crochet, and then double crochet back into that skipped stitch. There we go. We have 2 raised portions. Skip, double crochet, and then a double crochet into that skipped stitch. And then I'm going to continue working until the end of the row, following that pattern. Okay, so I've reached the end. Let me just take that out so we can work on this together. I reached the last 4 stitches. Like I mentioned earlier, this is an odd number of stitches, so it's going to end up perfectly. So I'm going to skip, double crochet, and then double crochet into that skip stitch. And then here at the last stitch, I'm going to do a double crochet, and that ends row 19. So here in row 19, you could see that we've created raised bars that go diagonally in that manner. There we go. For the pattern, if you're following the pattern, I'm going to say it again, because of the number of stitches being even, you're going to have just an extra double crochet right there at the beginning. Okay, so let's go to row 2. We are now going to chain 2. I'm going to turn my work, and I want my stitches to be raised on the right side. So this is going to need a little handwork. So what we're going to do is skip. Okay, so I chain 2. I'm going to skip the first stitch, which is this one. I'm going to double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then double crochet into that skipped stitch, passing through the back of these stitches that we just made. So I have to flip the work over, find that stitch that we just missed, which is right here. Or skipped, I mean, not missed. Missed kind of means a mistake. And there we go. Okay, so now you can see if you flip the work over, you've created like a V on the front side of the work, or on the right side. We're going to do that again. Skip 1 stitch, double crochet, double crochet, and double crochet into that slipped stitch, so passing through the back. And there you go. We'll do that again. Skip, double crochet, and double crochet into that skipped stitch through the back. Skip, double crochet, double crochet, double crochet into that skipped stitch through the back. Okay, I have 3 more repeats that I'm just going to work slowly, because this is a very tricky portion. Okay, and double crochet into that skipped stitch, skip, double crochet into that skipped stitch, skip, double crochet, and double crochet into that skipped stitch, and then perform a double crochet right into that last stitch. So that's row 19. This is how it looks like from the wrong side. You can see that there's like chunks that are kind of pointing that way, like an arrow. If we look at the right side, you could see that you've made those raised arrows going that way. So we're going to work now on row 21, which is just a single crochet row, bringing us to this side. Okay, so chain 1 and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15, 20, 21, 22, and 23. So that is row 21 for us. Okay. Now for row 22, the next repeat, so it's going to be row 22 and 23, we want our arrows to be facing the other way. So to do that, I'm going to chain 2, skip 1 stitch, and remember this is the back of the work. Okay, so skip 1 stitch, 2 double crochets, so 1, 2, and then a double crochet passing through the back of those stitches, because this is our wrong side. We want all of those raised stitches to be on the front side. Okay, again, skip, double crochet, double crochet, and double crochet into that skipped stitch, passing through the back. Skip, double crochet, double crochet, and double crochet into that skip stitch, passing through the back. Skip, double crochet, and a double crochet passing through that back into that skip stitch. I'm going to do it 3 more times. So I skipped that, 2 double crochets, and then a double crochet into that skipped stitch, skip, double crochet, and then a double crochet into that skipped stitch through the back. Skip, double crochet, and then another double crochet through the back into that skipped stitch, then double crochet right here into here. There we go. And that is row 22. If we look at our piece, we can see that on this right side, our raised lines are now pointing into the other direction. So that's nice and fun. Okay. Row 23, we're going to chain 2. And in your pattern, again, since you're working with those even stitches, you're going to have that extra double crochet. It's going to say double crochet into that next stitch, but because I'm working with a different number of stitches, I'm going to ignore that and go on to our repeat section. So we're working on the right side. I'm going to skip 1 stitch, which is this one, where this line meets, double crochet into the next 2 stitches, crochet, double crochet, and then do a double crochet into that skipped stitch, but working through the front of those stitches. So I'm going to make sure that it passes over those stitches just like that. So you could see that it now made an arrow going that way, or a little pointy figure. So skip, double crochet, double crochet, and then double crochet into that first stitch, passing over the front of those stitches. Skip, double crochet, double crochet, and then double crochet, passing over the front. Okay, and you can see here you have those arrows going that way now. Go, double crochet, double crochet, double crochet into that skipped stitch, skip, double crochet, double crochet, and double crochet into that skipped stitch. Skip, double crochet, double crochet, double crochet into that skipped stitch, skip, double crochet, double crochet, and double crochet into that skipped stitch. And then just a double crochet into that last stitch for me. And here we go. You have the first two sections of that herringbone done. So arrows pointing that way and arrows pointing this way. Row 24 is going to be a single crochet row so that your yarn goes back to that end. So I'm just going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Now rows 25 and 26 are going to be exactly the same as what we did over here, making sure that your arrows are pointing the opposite direction from this last repeat. So I'm going to just work on those and I'll see you after row 27, which is another single crochet row. Okay, so I have reached the end of row 27. Looking down at row 28, it's a single crochet row with the contrasting color. So I'm going to attach the contrasting color here for row 28. Row 29 and 23 is that double crochet band over here. So using the main color, so I'm just going to perform this row 28 carrying over our main color so that it's set up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 19, 20, 21, and 22, and 23. Finishing that last stitch up with that, and I'm going to cut off our contrasting color, secure that, and we're ready to do our double crochet row. So chain 2, and then double crochet in each stitch down the row And I will meet you guys after 2 rows of double crochet. Okay, I reached the end of row 30, and row 31 is going to be done in our contrasting color. So I'm going to finish off that stitch by attaching our contrasting color. And row 31 is going to be an X row. So I'm going to actually be crocheting over our main color because row 32 and 33 is going to be done in our main color. So with our X row, going to skip one, double crochet into the next, double crochet into that skipped stitch, skip one, double crochet into the next, and then double crochet into that skipped, skip one, double crochet into that next, and double crochet into that skipped. So I'm going to continue doing that until the end of the row. And remember, I am using, for this swatch, I'm using an odd number of stitches, so I'm going to have that extra stitch at the end. So this row, row 31, is actually our mid section row. So, and that's where this tutorial is going to end, or this guide is going to end, because the second half of this pattern is basically a repeat of what we did, just going in the opposite direction. So here we are into the last 2 stitches. I'm going to do a double crochet in each stitch. And the next row is going to be in our contrasting color. So I'm going to, or our main color, going to pull through and end that stitch there. Okay, so just raise this a little bit. You can see that this herringbone section kind of cinches it in, but don't worry, when you are done with your project, just wet block it so that it distributes the stitches, fixes that dimension, and pulls it out. And wet blocking will actually make these rows, or this herringbone section, more defined as it evens out the stitches. Alright, so there you have it. After this section, it's just going to be the complete opposite, just following this direction. So you're going to have your herringbone section, and then your crisscross section, and then ending over here. And I hope that this walkthrough of the Johnston wrap was helpful in guiding you to make your own wrap. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys again in the next video.